Hi, everybody. It is Thursday, the 27th, and for this Sunday, the 30th, our verse is going to be something that's familiar to I'm sure, a lot of us, and it's about Moses in the burning bush. And it's Exodus chapter 3, verses 1 through 15. So I'm going to read that, and then I'm going to pose a few questions and a comment or two for you to think about as we think about our sermon this Sunday and our discussion, and whether you'll be with those of us in church or whether you'll be watching online. So listen now for the word of the Lord. Moses at the burning bush. Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led his flock beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, yet it was not consumed. Then Moses said, "I must turn aside and look at this great sight, and see why the bush is not burned up." When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called him out of the bush, "Moses, Moses," and he said, "Here I am." Then he said, "Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground." He said further, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord said, "I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The cry of the Israelites has now come to me. I have also seen how the Egyptians oppress them. So come, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" He said, "I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that it is I who sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on this mountain," that being Mount Horeb. But Moses said to God, "If I come to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your ancestors has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' what shall I say to them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am." He said further, "Thus you shall say to the Israelites, 'I am has sent me to you.'" God also said to Moses, "Thus you shall say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my title for all generations." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So a few things I wanted to think about. During this time, if you remember, Moses is kind of on the lam, isn't he? He's run away. When he was back in Egypt, he saw an Egyptian soldier beating an Israelite, and Moses beat the Israelite and the Egyptian, killed him, and buried him in the sand. And then some people said, "Oh yeah, by the way, we saw you kill that Egyptian." And he was worried that it was going to get back to Pharaoh, and so he left and he ran, and he went out into the desert, and he found his father-in-law Jethro. So now he's pretty comfortable, isn't he? He's away from Egypt. He's now married Zipporah, Jethro's daughter. Zipporah's had a son, so he's safe. He has a wife. He has a son. And he's a shepherd, which is sort of a revered position of leadership. I guess the point I want to make is he's pretty darn comfortable. And so this burning bush probably wouldn't be something. He turns aside because he's curious. There's some curiosity here. It almost seems to me like God is baiting the hook, isn't it? So he's using this burning bush. Moses is very captive and comfortable, and all of a sudden this bush starts blazing, and Moses gets curious and goes over like a fish going to sniff out a worm on a hook. And right when he gets there, God says, "I've got you." We had a sermon last week about altars in the world and common places, nowhere places becoming, instead of nowhere, becoming now here. And we see this again here, doesn't we? There's a bush and it's kind of out in the hardscrabble desert, and God says, take off your sandals, this is holy ground. It's another way we could take this sermon, I think, or that we could take this discussion. Something else maybe to think about, this name that God has, and I'll just give you this to think about. We have traditionally, or the most common translation is, I am who I am. And we'll talk about the Hebrew this Sunday, but a better translation really is, I will be who I will be, or I will become what I will become. And if we think about I am who I am versus I will be or I will become who I will become, what differences maybe can you think theologically that might be a difference about God? And I wonder why so much of the English translation, we say I am who I am. But if you go back to the ancient Hebrew and you read rabbinical scholars, they are pretty insistent that this is, I will become, the name of God is, I will become who I will become. Another question might be to think of, why is God so cagey about giving Moses his name? In fact, why is God so cagey about giving anyone God's name? The other thing that I want to sort of explore is, where are we and what is our response when God calls us to do something uncomfortable? Do we sweep it out, particularly in times when we're, pretty happy or we're pretty comfortable, and something is inserted into our mind or into our heart that makes us uncomfortable? How do we respond? And we'll talk this Sunday about the myriad little pebbles that Moses throws at Yahweh, saying, well, I'm just not a really good public speaker. Well, what if they don't believe me? Pharaoh's has a reputation for a bad temper. How do we respond? And then one of the last things I wanted to talk about is, how does that, Moses is running away from his past in one sense. And there could be shame involved, there could be just fear involved, but Moses is running away from his past, and he doesn't want to confront his past. How is this a life truth that we can get from this book, as opposed to possibly an absolute historical truth that this happened exactly the way the text says that it does? If we, in my opinion, limit ourselves to saying, well, this is, if it didn't happen exactly in this place and exactly the way this happened, there was a burning bush and whatnot, then all of this basically is really worthless. It's not true. Or can we extract a lifetime, or not even a lifetime, but an eternal human truth out of this story here? God's call to someone who is comfortable, the reluctance, the almost cross-examination of God, trying to figure out, are you really who you say you are? Well, what's your name? How am I going to do that? Well, I'm the last person you ought to send. Is this more of an eternal truth? So a lot to discuss this Sunday. Again, make some comments on this YouTube video, or email me, charlie@kmccparma.com, and look forward to talking to you Sunday. Bye.